What is up guys, Wraec is here with a new video, and today we want to take a look at whether or not you are strong for your respective spending level. So whether you're free to play or whether you are a big spender, your power will vary a lot depending on how you play or how you spend at a higher level and for how long you play. And today we want to find out whether or not you are on the stronger side of that or a little bit on the weaker side. And for that we have a variety of data and actually a calculator as well that I want to show you. First of all, let's take a look. Let's go a little bit into the explanation of that. So that is my account. My account has 83 billion season power and a ton of heroes on there. We have a ton of Celestial and Hypergen heroes. Paragon 2 is my highest Paragon, even though I have Paragon 3 unlocked. I have yet to get to that point. So with this account and this power, owning every single hero, most of them at Supreme Plus, a few not there, I have about 53.1 million base power. If you have the question or ask yourself what base power is, basically that is the power you have outside of a season. Within a season there are of course a lot of different power mechanics, mythic charms or charms in general. You have the artifacts, you have the season levels, season resonance levels. Every level beyond 240 is a season level, so those all are pushed aside for the base power, and that leaves you with 53.1 million, which of course is a vast difference to the 83 billion we have within a season. Still, this value is very comparable between accounts because it doesn't take into account whether I leveled to 1000 or whether I was a little bit lazy this season within the AFK stages. So everybody is 240, that is like a little bit established in the game. So you can compare accounts very easily at that point. And then we have a second parameter that is of course important. How much did you spend? And to find out about that, you can see in the loyal patronage your VIP level. There's a little bit of VIP level that you get for free. And then there is the 267,140 that I go through spending. And it's like, it's 1 point per dragon crystal that you buy. Unless you buy through Pluto Mall, then it's a little bit different. But in general, it's 3,000 points for 100 USD spent. So that is in general the parameter. So that being said, there's a guy called Avatar, and what he did is quite crazy. So this guy Avatar went ahead and he made a huge survey and a huge analysis about power and mithril points. And from the details of all of that, he built a calculator, and this calculator can find out whether or not you're on the stronger or on the weaker side of your respective power level. So one thing to note though, we are going to talk about a little bit more than that. I want to show you some of the details he found, make it a little bit interesting, picking out some gems from that of but I will also give you the link to this analysis so you can find out about everything here in depth. This is on the Analytica Discord. I will link you the Analytica Discord and I will link you this thread so you can first join the Discord, then click on the thread and you will be brought here immediately. Also, I want to note he is searching for volunteers for another survey that he wants to do. If you like people that are this enthusiastic about stuff like this, about finding out things that we find interesting later, please take into consideration to help him. It's not a big thing that you have to do, but it will be interesting for all other players, and of course will be nice for the community if you find the time to do so. So that being said, let's check out the calculator first, and then we'll go into a little bit of the details of this analysis. Okay, here is the calculator. He made it in Excel, so this is currently the form. Maybe it will go to Analytica on the website or something. Would be pretty cool, but that is still a thing of the future. So you can enter two values here, either how much you spend or a little bit easier your mithril points, because you can kind of read those in game, makes it a little bit easier. Once you enter them, it gives you the minimum and the maximum power. So this is the normal range for your power. You can see 50.4K, so million, or 52.176. Between this your power would be, and it also gives you some despair, some depression by showing you how much money you spent on this game. Thank you, Avatar, for that. I'll have to think about it. $8,482 if you ever wondered how much I spent on this, and I'm VIP 18. So what he writes about that is basically, if your base power is higher than expected, then you are probably exceptional, and otherwise it might have some different reasons. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is you might have spent on some of the less value packs in game. Let's take a look at that. So if we go back into the game, I personally have to say I mostly only go for pop-up packs, like those packs they have usually 1200% value, 1500% value. Those are usually a lot better. And it's the same for the packs in here. Those vary in value. And while this often doesn't say much in other games in AFK Journey, it is actually a pretty decent parameter to see the value of certain packs. And there are some packs that are just straight up bad. And those are the permanent bundles. Those offer very, very low value, and you can see that very easily. 3000 Dragon Crystals only get you 20 Stellar Crystals here, and within the limited bundles, you all can get them for like 1000. Like here, Special Fall Harvest Bundle, 650% value, 20 Stellar Crystals, 1000 Dragon Crystals. So there's a lot of difference within the packs and the value that you can get. And of course, there are, for example, players that wait a lot at the beginning. Those had to go for the permanent bundles. If you wait a little bit slower, you might have gone for higher value bundles. This changes a lot if you are a spender. If you are free to play, one major thing that might contribute to you having less power than other players is you might have just started with the game. You might not have played that long, and this basically will work for players that played the game from the start or very close to the start. The further you started from the start of the game, which was in April this year, by the way, the more likely it is that you will have a little bit less power. For example, we have the Fall Carnival event. You get free loot in here. You get 5 Stellar Crystals here, 5 Stellar Crystals here, and we constantly have events like this that offer some free loot. And of course, you profit from that, and you will have some power gain that will only come through that. So if you're a little bit on the lower side, but no, just only started in like June or July, that is not bad at all. For me and myself, I started at the beginning of the game. I'm at 53.1 million, so this is quite charming for me, considering, well, we can look back at the ranges. It was between 50.4 and 52.1, so I'm a little bit above that even. And yeah, I think I only ever bought limited bundle. I only ever bought one permanent bundle by accident, so I'm pretty happy with that. I would, by the way, care about your power level. Is it within this range, or are you outside of this range? Maybe just write your mithril points and your power down, and if you are within the range. That would be very, very cool. Also some additional data point for Avatar, I guess. Let's look at some other findings from Avatar, because there are some very cool things and some very cool details that he found out that I just want to show you guys, because I personally found them very, very interesting. So in his analysis, he also made a lot of infographics, and those infographics are pretty cool. If we take a look at this one, for example, you can see all the little crosses here. Those are all data points. Those are players that send them their data, and they said, okay, I have 40k base power, and I have about 20k mithril points. So that is like the amount of base power they had. Everybody that is like on the line here, on the bottom line, has no mithril points, so that is a free-to-play player. So you can see a lot of the players here on the lower levels, on like 35, are still very, very close to being free-to-play, or might even be free-to-play. Personally, with one guildmate of mine is like at 33, 34 million base power and still free to play. So that's pretty cool. You can see how close they still are. So the further away your data point is from this bottom line, the more you spend. And we can see this middle line going up, and this means that the amount you have to spend to reach a certain power pretty rapidly increases. So till 45 million, you are still pretty much below 50k, which is about 1,500. So around 1,500, 1,600, you can be at like 45 million power. But to get from there to 50 million power, you have to spend like 4 times that amount. Look how crazy that is. Look how crazy this difference is. 4 times. So just for this very small power increase, to get from 45 million to 50 million, which seems like nothing, and in-game you barely notice it, but being at 50 million or beyond that is truly crazy. It's truly crazy. And this is like about the power that I have, and there you are at around 300,000, which is makes this probably my data point. Is this my data point? That might actually be my data point. Look, there I am. We found me. So it's kind of interesting. So as long as you are below that line, you are pretty good. You are pretty good. And getting to 45 million is honestly kind of the sweet spot, I think. Like if you are spending, and if you are a low spender and you are around here, you probably did pretty well. You got a ton of power for relatively low spending, and then we get into this area where the spending really becomes insane, and this is really the point where the whaling starts. I think everything below 45, beyond 45 million is already like the point where whaling starts, because it all starts to get a little bit senseless, I think. And at the latest, if you are above 50 million, well, they are lost beyond hope, I'm afraid. So that is a thing, and I have to sadly say that's also probably the case for me, but I do it on a professional level, so that makes up for it, I guess. So this I thought is also a very interesting graphic, because this shows the different VIP levels, how much mithril points you need, and how much you need to spend to get to that point. I've not seen that yet, and it's a pretty common graphic for every single game, so I thought this would be something very cool to put in this video. You can see it's like 7,600 for the VIP level, but I'm currently at 18. The cool wings, by the way, those whale golden wings, it's like VIP 19, I believe, so 10k. Pretty crazy. And you can see, of course, it's designed in the same way as most other VIP structures, where you get the first VIP levels relatively easily. You are like at 100 USD, you are basically VIP 7. And they make it 102 USD, obviously. So you spend 100 USD because that's a shop buy, and then you look at your VIP level and you see, oh, I'm nearly VIP 7. And what is at VIP 7? Is there a cool reward? Let us check that. I would have expected a little bit more. You get the fledgling night cloak, so I don't know if that's that cool, but that's certainly a point. And what I said about VIP 19, that is like just only the Starlight Enigma. It's VIP 20 where you get the really cool wings that I still want to have. So yeah, that's a thing. And VIP 20, 14,000 USD wings. And you can see the crazy difference, like VIP 18, 7k. There we are already at 14, so that's quite the distance to cover. And interestingly enough, after VIP 22, it seems to just be the same amount every single time. So no longer escalating it upwards. Kind of interesting that they decided, okay, if it's more than 8k, it becomes demotivating apparently. So very, very interesting here. Okay, this one seems a little bit complicated, but stay with me, it's actually very, very cool. So he had a sample size of 170 players, which we saw in like the first graphic, and this one. 170 little crosses here on the board, and we saw this, and what he said was, okay, I now have an amount of players, and I know how much they spent on the game, and now I say, okay, a typical server has 825 active players. It's now a lot less, by the way, but maybe calculated over the lifetime. You can, by the way, find out about how he calculated everything also in his document. He goes into very deep detail here. I'm only cherry picking like the best things from all of his analysis, but it goes into very deep detail. So that being said, he knew the spending of everybody, and now he said, okay, I would just calculate. If I have 170 players of that, I will calculate that up to 825 active players. So just assume that the spending and the amount and the ratio of people spending a specific amount was the same for a server of 825 active players. It might vary a little bit, it will vary between every single server, but we get like the data for an example server here, which is pretty cool. So this might be your server. And if that is your server, then you have like 17% people that are free to play. And you can see it's $54 spent. That is actually not, that is actually just the free points that you get. You get some free mithril points. Those are worth $54. So that is just something. So 17% are free to play. We have another 10% here that are spent below $100. Those roughly contribute $4,780. So 26%, and we're roughly at like not even 5k. So that is like the bottom quarter of your server. Then we have a huge peak at the $101 to $500. So very, very occasional spenders that make 22% of a server. I wouldn't have expected that to be like the majority, because it is not very regular, unless you spend for something like a card every now and then, just by the cards in the shop that give you a few summons. That of course would make sense. Then you could end up with such a value. You're probably not buying packs very often, or only at special occasions at that point. But it's a pretty big amount of play. It's 22.42%. It's actually the biggest amount of players within a category. So that's pretty crazy. We have some two categories that are roughly the same, 500 to 1000 and 1000 to 2000. The 1000 to 2000 players are of course worth double the amount here, and that is like worth giving them a value is honestly quite insane. But yeah, that is the case. The orange bars are, by the way, or the orange yellowish bars, those are the amount of players that are in the category. The bluish bars, those this is the spending that they contribute. So this is the spending that they contribute. That's why you barely see those bars here, because that is very little spending. And then we get into the higher classes, and this can become quite interesting. So the category 10,000 to 20,000 is 7% of players, and this is the one that brings the most money in, 804,000. The 5,000 to 10,000 category, 709,000. So we get around 1.5 million USD from those players that make up 20% of your server. So that's 1.5 million right there. And the crazy thing is then we have two more categories, and those are like our megalodons. I would say those are still our whales. Those are our megalodons, 20 to 30k and above 30k. The 20 to 30k are pretty small. It's 52k only. It is like 0.24%. It's not really very much. They are absolutely outclassed by the bigger megalodons. Maybe we just factor them in with the whales. Those are our big guys. Those are our really big guys. We don't have a lot of them on a server, but those will eat you alive. Over 30k, they provide 160,000 USD for our server. And if you take that into comparison, that is pretty insane, because that is more than the bottom 4 categories. That is nearly more than the bottom 5 categories. This one is a little bit big, but if you calculate this together, this is not even 100,000 USD. And this is like 50% of all players. So this is more than 50% of all players, nearly 60% of all players. So nearly 60% of our players are worth less than the top 0.36%. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? That, I think, was the most crazy thing to me. That, like, most of the players really don't matter too much in terms of your income. They are, I think, mostly there to attract more whales. Like, if you think about it in a business perspective, because you don't need free-to-play in that sense. You don't need them as your customer. They don't buy anything, so they have to have another use. Which is, in that sense, of course, attracting more of the whales. So, yeah, a little bit whale food in that sense. But a lot of them have a lot of fun. So I guess AFK Journey in that regard is a pretty good game. It's not, I think, if I look at my other game that I play, Idle Heroes, where players really don't have a chance against any of the whales, where it's like swatting a fly away if you meet them in PvP, and that's surely not the case here. Even some of the bigger whales on my server surely have spent a lot more than I did. I could beat in PvP matches, and I definitely lost some matches against people that spent a whole lot less than me, especially to some Thorn explosions or Thorn nukes, like this is definitely something that's possible in this game, and it puts a pretty big focus on story, which is pretty good for free-to-play. So I think in terms of free-to-play value, I wouldn't call this game like in a way that it really makes them only whale food. They just offer pretty great service for them overall. But this is like the main thing that you can take away from this. There are a lot more things that Avatar could did put into his analysis, so this is also pretty interesting. And then we have this a little bit changed. This pretty similar graphic that we have right here. Looks a little bit more at the singular player. We looked at the categories in the last graphic. This is more looking at the singular player. The amount of players in the category, the yellow bars stay the same. We have our big peak right here. And those are 22% of the players. And on average, they spend 234 USD. This is the average here. And this, of course, goes up. 0 for free-to-play here. And in the final category, and I think this is the most interesting thing that we have, we find 53,352 average. So mostly the bluish bar changes. This is now the average spend per player in the category. 53,000 I thought was pretty crazy, and definitely worth noting. Coming back for one last time for this analysis, I think it's pretty interesting. You can find the download link, by the way, or the download right here. There is the calculator that I showed. And you can find out for yourself where your power is within this range. If you found any of this interesting, please strongly consider entering his second analysis, his second survey that he's working on. Call of Duty volunteers needed to survey their respective servers. So if you have any time on your hands to support that, please do. I think it's a very great service for the community and it's super interesting, and I definitely love to read those. Definitely click the link, maybe leave a little reaction on his main survey, let him know that we were there. And other than that, I would say, I wish you a great day, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we'll see us in the next one.